Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports have been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys up in Canada. But I also wanted to acknowledge we're growing in Australia, where the Pacquiao and Horn fight's happening on Saturday. Also, there's something called the Russian Republic. I never even knew they existed. So thanks for tweeting and following Big C Sports. I think it's Putin, Big C. I can't say for sure, but why else would the Russian Republic be listening to Big C Sports? Also over in a lot of other countries in Europe. So thank you so much for following Big C Sports on iHeartRadio. Today is a beautiful June 29th, 2017. Big C, I hear it's raining again down south on all you good old boys. What's going on, Big C? Yeah.
College World Series.
Yeah.
And gators love water, that's their natural habitat. So, they get the deluge down here in the South, Charlton, to keep everything green and moist. This way we won't be suffering what they're doing out there in California with those unfortunate fire hazards that happen to wreak havoc on the West Coast every summer. But other than that, it's almost like a quiet world in sports. When you think about it, it's like we're getting more banter now about NBA teams, Charlton, than what we did during the regular season.
Yeah, and that's a fact too, Big C, because there's always more excitement around what can happen as opposed to what just happened. And you would think with all the talk going on that LeBron James has announced he's going to a different place, because when you have players that are announcing they're going to go somewhere, it's usually more exciting when they bring a championship with them, Big C, not when they haven't won one. I think we've seen more excitement of the guys that don't have a ring than the guys that currently have one. I want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also, Big C, I know we talked about so many things in the world of sports. My goodness, it's about 100 degrees again in California. I don't know if Mother Nature can make up her mind or if Donald Trump is right. There is no such thing as global warming. Big C, is Mother Nature right? Is getting hot, or is Donald Trump right? That is not hot at all, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think after this morning, the world and mainly the U.S. got their feel on Donald Trump about how he feels about women. And I think Mother Nature might be a woman, Charles.
Oh, yeah, that's what I hear.
With the tweet that he sent out this morning against an MSNBC host,
Yeah.
Mika, it's just torrid, Charlton. We want an adult running this country in the White House. Donald Trump is 71 years old. And it's almost like you inverted those numbers that he's a 17-year-old running the U.S.
Yeah.
Because who spends more time on tweeting than a 17-year-old?
Yeah.
And that's what the president is. We have national issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Donald Trump spends his days attacking the media, saying it's fake media, the false media, saying that they're the enemy.
Yeah.
He's the enemy of the media, Charlton. The media is there to keep America abreast of what goes on in politics. It's called checks and balances.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what the media's job is. The media is not one-sided. The media is there objectively, looking at every perspective of it all.
Yeah. And that's
for him to make these personal attacks. We saw it when he attacked Megyn Kelly, formerly of Fox News, during the presidential race.
Yeah.
He also attacked Colleen Ferreira, during the presidential campaign.
Yeah.
And he's attacked so many women, Charlton.
Yeah.
And this is bullying one-on-one. And like I said, this is what you expect from a 17-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Not a 71-year-old grandfather, okay?
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing when you put it that way. A lot of kids have grandfathers that are not even 70. And this kid's 71, and he's flirting with everybody. And you would think he would have learned, because he's been listened to all over the world, Big C. You would think he would have learned with the comments he made about grabbing women by the vagina. And there are women who say it's okay because they voted for him anyway. So that just goes to show you that some people, you can do anything you want to them. So at least give...
Well, Charlton,
yeah.
These people did not vote Donald Trump. Let's be correct in our statements. We're not the alternative facts, but we do tell the truth about what goes on. These are votes against Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
This was white America tired of black leadership for 8 years.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And they felt that Hillary Clinton would have been an extension of Barack Obama. That's where the Donald Trump votes came from.
Yeah.
America, at some point, needs to be honest. Mitch McConnell even stated that.
Yeah.
That they were going to do all all that they could to make sure that Barack Obama was a one-term president. These were Republicans.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he ended up being a two-term president. And for 7 years, Charlton, the Republican Congress did nothing to aid this president for 7 years.
Yeah.
Now they have an embarrassment on their hand, Charlton, and President, and even these guys are speaking up.
Yeah.
Saying, he needs to stop.
Yeah.
And even Paul Ryan spoke up this morning and said, hey, this is not what we need, this type of rhetoric.
Hold on, Big C.
Who's the vice president, though? It was Mike Pence. That's the guy that I want to hear from.
Yeah.
Everybody in the White House who works under Donald Trump walks around patting him on the back for stupidity.
Yeah.
Because they're happy to have that job. But they're serving America falsely by accepting what he says, Charlton, and saying that's status quo.
Well, Big C, that's a very good point you brought up. And I meet more and more people that will tell you, if you can say, off camera or off the air, what they really feel. They just want to see a white guy back in power because that's what they grew up being accustomed to. And when change scares a lot of people, especially when it has a different shade of color, Big C. And so I think you're right. Just a lot of people would put up with that garbage. But I want to bring something up that's also tied to sports and also the way we treat people. We always end our show with saying there's never any excuse for any type of domestic violence. And Big C, mostly when that happens, we image a man harming a woman. Well, there's a former football player, a college football player at the University of Rochester. Okay, it's going to be on outside the lines on ESPN. This guy was kidnapped and tortured by 2 women, Big C. Okay, so just like we say, well, let's get on Donald Trump about no harassing women, and because it's so sinister. Well, the fact is, it can happen to men too, and there are 2 women that accosted this guy. I guess he thought he was going to get a pickup line or whatever, but they took him and they tortured him. So what Donald Trump is doing, and this is all over the news today too, what Donald Trump is doing, making women feel uncomfortable. There's just no room for it because women are battered like every 20 seconds. Big C, your thought on even men having to be careful when they think they're going to take someone home. Big C, your thoughts?
Unfortunately, this is a major part of American society that every 21 seconds in America, someone is battered, okay?
Yeah.
Every 21 seconds in America, a man and a woman is battered. And, people turn the blind eye to it, talking, well, I don't want to get involved. I didn't hear or see that.
Yeah.
People don't want to report it because they're embarrassed. You may think that you might lose this individual that's in your life. It may be the sole breadwinner in your household. What do you do? You become homeless. All of these factors come into play, Charlton. But there's a stigmatism to abuse in America.
Yeah.
Is that you don't want people to know that you're in an abusive situation. And people will say, just work it out. Try to get counseling. Counseling doesn't stop someone from punching you.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't stop someone from verbally abusing you. That is the most overused statement in the world. Get counseling. Because let me tell you what a counselor is, Charlton. A counselor is a sick individual who loves to sit up and listen to more
other people's pain. Yeah.
And he gets off or she gets off on someone else's pain.
Yeah.
You cannot sit up as a sane individual saying that you're helping someone, taking notes and going back and paying attention to what you just heard all day long and be a sane person.
Yeah.
To sit up and listen to abuse all day long and not be reporting this to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Attorney-client privilege, whatever it may be. But when you're sitting there as a so-called counselor and you're listening to this abuse that's been going on consistently and you're not reporting it to law enforcement, you're aiding and abetting and getting a bit of euphoria from it, Charles.
And Big C, I love the way you bring that up because sometimes, and I'm not knocking counselors, but a lot of times counselors just have you rehash what's wrong. I say call 911. If someone's abusing me, I don't need counseling. I need the law enforcement to show up and handle things. I want to bring this up because we had her on our program about 2 years ago over at Salem Media. It was all over the newspaper just about a week ago. Her name is Ruthie Bolton, and she admitted on the newspaper that she was battered. Now, here's a former WNBA athlete, an all-star, all-American type of athlete, female athlete, very physically fit, Big C, has made good money for herself in her lifetime, someone that was well respected in the community, and as she was going around advocating for other people in the community, she was living under domestic violence. Now, I'm so proud of her for bringing it out, but even while she was out there trying to help other women, she was going through the same thing herself. And now you have this football player that was he's a 22-year-old kid from Rochester, He's seen that he was battered by women that seduced him. I guess he was trying to seduce them. How a lot of people go to the clubs and they're going to get somebody some Cristal and they think they're going to pick up on somebody they don't even know. And they end up living with Mr. Goodbar, and that's what happened to him, Big C. What can we tell young athletes about having somebody know where you are? I know young people are going to do what they want to do. They're going to have fun, and that's nothing wrong with that. But at least have somebody know where you are when you're going out with strangers, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is why they always talk about go with friends.
Yeah.
Be with people that you know. Have that safety net.
Yeah.
And we never know where danger comes from in society, Charlton. It's I want to go back to a couple of weeks ago when we had the shooting in Washington of the Senators,
Yeah. Yeah, the baseball game, yeah.
This is why you always have protection around. And granted, our lawmakers in this country always need protection, especially with the climate that we have.
Oh, yeah.
And what the president has set a precedent for. The president has advocated violence since
Yeah.
he's running for president. He's talked about punching people in the face.
Yeah.
Going out, beating up people, hiring people to beat up people, Charlton.
And he'll pay your legal bills. I remember that.
There was one incident, Charlton, where he talked about, shooting someone.
Yeah.
And I believe he was directed at Hillary Clinton, where he held his finger up to his moon.
Yep.
When he was talking about the Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Talking about, the people, for the Second Amendment can take care of that situation.
Yeah.
So what was his speech to those senators and those law enforcement from Capitol Hill, the police officers that were there to protect the senators? What was his speech to them? Is it okay now? Where was Ron LaPierre, Charlton, when we talk about violence in America? The Second Amendment right is fine.
Yeah.
Where was Ron LaPierre talking about senators being shot, police officers being shot, talking about, hey, this is your Second Amendment right? The thing that I get from this, Charlton, more often than not,
Yeah.
is that it's white American men doing it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
White American men. These are not terrorists from another country. Even
No.
though the travel ban was born to place tonight. These are white American men that the president never speaks up against. Ron LaPierre never speaks up against.
Yep.
And if we happen to get one single, foreigner out of 1,000 shootings in America, all of a sudden it's the biggest national event that we can have.
Yep.
But as long as white American men are going up, shooting up Americans, it's okay to have a gun, a long gun, Charlton, to have that AK-47, that Tech-9. It's okay.
To hunt a rabbit, right?
Yeah, you're going out to hunt a rabbit with a 90-round clip.
Wow.
Right? This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
But, we never hear these gun lobbyists in these situations. And what just happened in Washington, this was Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Now, if you even go back to the presidential campaign where they were talking about that Hillary Clinton was running a kid trafficking ring out of a pizza parlor.
Oh, that's a joke.
And there was a white guy showed up with a semi-automatic rifle.
Yeah.
Firing in the air.
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't kill him, but, they took him into custody.
Yeah.
The white guy had a gun. Black guy had been dead twice.
Well, there's something that you bring up, and there was even recently on the news, Big C, there was a tennis player, I can't remember his name, in New York. He was slammed to the ground. And
Blake.
Blake. And before they knew that they had it on tape, like you said before, everybody has a videotape on their phone. Everybody can go record anything that keeps us all safe in society. They all denied that it even happened, Big C. That's the thing that keeps people afraid. But whether it's Ruthie Bolton Holyfield being beaten up in her own house and then going to play a basketball game, and no one even questioned what happened. Maybe they thought she was bruised up in a game. I'm glad she came up to talk about it. This young football player out of Rochester, whether he was accosted by two women, he thought he was going to go home with them and have a good time, but they had ulterior motives. I was talking to somebody else, another athlete, and I think the shame is, Big C, our president can never talk about sexual assault against men or women because we know he jokes about it and laughs about it. Even for the women who it happens to every 20 to 21 seconds, he can never come out and say anything about it because he seems like to be an advocate of it. So I want to make sure that everyone who's dealing with that, there's one simple thing you do. You call 911 on your phone, and at least the incident is recorded immediately when they pick up the phone, or you can have help on the way. Whether you're a man or a woman, it happens to both genders, Big C, so we got to make sure we keep people safe because these are sports figures. We're not talking about somebody who's working at a school and coming home late at night and some strangers bothering her. These are people that you know or think you know because you met them at a bar. Okay, so we got to do that to keep people safe. I want to say sports is a $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We get it through Ben and Mark. They've been around a half a century, and they work with Big C Sports on iHeartRadio. If you call them up or Google them, let them know Charlton and Big C sent you, and get yourself a special deal. Big C, a lot of things going on in the world of sports. Kind of a tragedy in a sense. Venus Williams, I guess she was named at fault in a car accident that was a fatality back on June the 9th. Now, just because you're a multi-millionaire athlete, it does not inoculate you from anything that can go on in our society, in the world of sports, whether you're a 9-to-5 person or anywhere. So hopefully, as we're all behind the wheel, I know everybody wants to text and drive. I'm not saying that's the case, Big C. I'm just saying when it's a famous person, more of that comes to attention. Big C, your thought on athletes, sometimes they're targeted also. I'm not saying that's the case, but how can athletes be more safe when they're behind the wheel, Big C? Your thoughts?
Athletes are targeted walking in a crosswalk.
Yeah.
Somebody will bump into you with a shoulder and say that you knocked them down. We see incidents with athletes all the time. Venus Williams is going to be targeted. I mean, here's a pregnant woman. She's probably 7-8 months pregnant now. You know, and she's being targeted in this situation. We don't know the particulars of this incident, Charles.
Yeah.
But she was the one driving with money.
Yeah.
Okay? This is that scenario. She's the one driving with money.
Yeah.
And so, in any time that there's a loss of life, that's a great tragedy for anybody in the world, in America, Charles. No one wishes that on anyone. But, you know, to come after somebody in a scenario like this, to say, okay, she was in the vicinity, she has deep pockets, let's force her to pay.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you're going to get this civil lawsuit that comes up. I mean, we hadn't heard of any criminal charges.
No.
You know, we haven't heard of any manslaughter charges.
No.
We haven't heard of any vehicular manslaughter. But, you know, here it is. We're hearing about a civil suit first and foremost.
Yeah.
This is what comes about in the world of athletics. You have to take a step back in society and see how many times athletes get sued.
Yeah.
Even when you're right, you get sued.
Yeah.
I had an incident, Charlton, years ago when you were a baby. That, you know, I was attacked by an individual. Everyone saw this.
Yeah.
But it was a female.
Yeah.
She attacked me, and these incidents do occur because the car that I was driving was quite similar to her boyfriend's car. And she thought the woman that was in the car was me because the tinted windows back in those days that everybody had.
Yeah.
You could see through the front, but you couldn't see everything.
Yeah.
And so she jumps up on my hood. I jump out of my car, and she attacks me with her keys.
Yeah.
I push her back. She sues me.
Yeah.
Even though the police arrested her, I got sued.
Yeah.
And my insurance company told me, said, look, you're going to lose this case. We're just going to settle with her.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at you physically and look at her. She's going to come in there in the courtroom looking like a Girl Scout.
Yeah.
You can't hide your signs and your color.
And that's something that you brought up, and irrespective of what color you are. And we don't know what happened in the Venus Williams situation, but I was talking to an athlete today, and he was driving a Lamborghini. And I said, man, how fast have you been in that thing? And he says, too fast to tell you. But the point is, and I'm not trying to make this any statement that it should or should not be, but he was like honey, and there were bees coming all around him, if you understand what I mean, with short skirts and pushed up bras and all that stuff. And he didn't even know these women, but they were all over him as if he was their husband, even though he was not, Big C. I'm just saying.
What we used to call it back in the day was called fan mail. Okay?
Yeah.
As you were driving down the street in a luxury European vehicle,
Yeah.
everybody was fanning as you went up and down the street to war skirts.
Yeah, and
So we call that fan mail. Everybody was trying to fan you down and cool you off a little bit. Heat you up at the same time.
Well, I remember him saying, I said, man, it must be tough driving around in a car like that. And he said, you know what? It's more talk and then really what it is. People try to follow him home. There are people that try to go home with him. There's a lot of things that people got to put up with, whether you're an athlete or not. So people just got to be careful, Big C. And speaking of athletes, you know, the NBA has all this talk about who's going to go where. And, you know, there's all this talk about let's get the guy that doesn't have a ring to come help us get a ring. Doesn't make any sense. NBA, the Phoenix Suns, they met with Griffin and Millsap. Big C, I don't think Griffin and Millsap have a ring. Who cares if they meet with the Phoenix Suns? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, what I'm looking at now with everybody talking about forming these super teams.
Yeah.
Everybody is chasing hasn't gotten out of the second round of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
The players that you're coveting the most
Yeah.
are not winners.
Right.
You might as well go through the draft and draft these guys, but if you can't get past the second round of the NBA playoffs, how you're going to get somebody into the championship round.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a big-name free agent, Charlton, in the past decade
that
hasn't gotten out of the second round of the playoffs going to help a team.
Yeah.
You know, even when LeBron left, he had been to the finals before, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When KD left, he's been to the finals.
Yeah.
So they went on to win championships.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about these other teams forming these championship teams, Charlton, alleged championship teams that they're going to put together, and you're going out bringing all the losers, like get the band back together again and never had a Grammy.
Who was that back?
What you doing?
Who was that brother back in the day? I think it's
The Blues Brothers.
Yeah, the Blues Brothers. To get the bands back together. Them good old boys in Chicago. They all got together, Big C, but they can't dance the way they used to. At least even watching some of the old time bands get out and do their thing. These guys dance on one leg, kind of spin in a circle. Back in the day, they'd be doing somersaults and backflips. Now they just one leg moving around in a circle. That's what the good old boys are doing now, and that seems like what everybody's clamoring for in the NBA of all teams. I look at the Utah Jazz, Hayward saying that he wants to opt out of his contract in Utah, and Utah's going to have a good team next year. They're young, they're talented, maybe he's just positioning for more money. But I'm thinking again, who cares? I didn't see this guy in the NBA Finals. I didn't even see him in the Western Conference Finals. Let him opt out, but quit chasing guys that don't have a ring. There's something that's so powerful. Dr. J did a commercial, and he was getting dressed in the NBA Finals. He had his slacks on, he had his shirt on, and he had a white shirt. He put on a red tie and a black sports blazer. And he said, "You're not complete until you have one of these." I don't see one of these being a ring being chased around by anybody, Big C, because most of those guys are going to stay where they are right now. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charles, there may be a few disbursements from a championship team. That's it.
Yeah.
But as far as them being coveted by other teams around the league, those are the players that I would covet.
Yeah.
If I wanted to win a championship, I want to go out and get some championship lineage, because I can always find a guy who hasn't won.
Yeah.
That's the majority of the NBA. All right?
Yeah.
That's the majority of professional sports. You can always find a guy who hasn't won. And what's so exciting about it, Charles, in free agency, it's the guys without championships who make the most money.
Yeah.
I remember when free agency began in the NFL, Charles.
Yeah.
The first player to get paid, all right?
Yeah.
Was a fullback from the Dallas Cowboys signed by the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
He got $400,000, Charles. $400,000 when free agency first started in the NFL back in the early 80s.
That's a week's pay now.
That was more money than Joe Montana was making.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Joe Montana had won a Super Bowl. It was a backed-up fullback that got more money than Joe Montana.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't have a Super Bowl ring.
No.
But Joe Montana had been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And this guy in free agency, but that's what free agency has created.
Yeah.
It's created stupid money because we got stupid people willing to pay it.
Yep.
You look at the New York Knicks. This is a team right now that nobody would go to while Phil Jackson was the GM. Okay?
Yeah.
Now that Phil Jackson is gone, the best suited would be the former GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Charlton. 3 consecutive NBA titles.
Yeah.
Games that he's gone to. At least give him a look if you want a qualified GM. And maybe you could bring the fans and the lore back to Madison Square Garden. And speaking of Madison Square Garden, Charlton, there was a movie that was released 29 years ago today.
Yeah.
That they had a scene in Madison Square Garden where they were sitting up watching the Knicks game.
Yeah.
Coming to America.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones, Madge Sinclair,
Wow.
Samuel L. Jackson, Charlton, just part of this tremendous cast that was in this movie. And one of the all-time greats, John Amos.
Yeah.
So when you think about the star-studded cast that 29 years ago put America on its heels and made an all-time great movie that can't be duplicated, even though they're talking about doing a sequel of it, Charlton.
Yeah.
You can never duplicate perfection.
Yeah.
This is one of the most perfected African-American movies ever presented in America.
And Big C.
All-time classic.
And even more great about the brilliance of Eddie Murphy, and I wish he would get out and do more. He might have too much money to even get up now, Big C. But Eddie Murphy played those cameo roles. He cast himself, Big C. It may have hurt the Screen Actors Guild because a lot of people looking for work, they say Eddie got all 9 jobs, so he only needed Arsenio in the movie, Big C. All he did was Arsenio and a few other people. But you named off some great names. John Amos, Sam Jackson, the voice of CNN, James Earl Jones. And that shows you the potpourri of black talent, of African-American talent that most times they will not even get cast in a movie, Big C. Spike Lee Spike Lee did this thing too, but you look at what Eddie Murphy did with Arsenio back in the day, really appreciate the talent level and the width of talent in the African American community. That's so powerful. Oftentimes you see it in a sports movie. I remember the great Lee Steinberg, one of the top sports agents in the United States and probably in the world. He did a show called Show Me the Money with Tom Cruise, Big C, and they had Cuba Gooding Jr. They had a lot of African American talent in there, and because they had some players that were actually NFL football players, in this movie. But what Arsenio and, with the great Eddie Murphy, what they did with those great actors, would you imagine that Eddie Murphy was on top of that time? Now I think the top paid African American actor in the role of Sam L. Jackson and his just an amassed sea of knowledge and skills. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about that whole role that was played and how they incorporated sports into that movie also when we talked about the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
And just the mastery of the roles that were played in that movie. You talked about, Eddie Murphy playing a dozen different roles. He played all the roles in the barbershop.
Yeah.
And a couple singers in the movie, Charlton.
Yeah, like the barbershop that we go to. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Richie.
Arsenio played multiple roles, Charlton.
Yeah.
When we look at the opportunity that African Americans would get in those days, whether it was in movies, whether it was in athletics, some of those roles have diminished greatly today. And so they don't get that same opportunity. We saw just a couple of years ago where there was a boycott at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Calling it a blackout.
Yeah.
And it's a misrepresentation of the African American actor. There's so many great roles out there. And it's not about being an African American actor. It's just about being a great American, great entertainer.
Yeah.
When we look at the movie Census with Denzel Washington.
Oh, I got to see that again. That's amazing.
A tremendous movie. When we looked at the movie Numbers.
Yeah.
Hidden Figures, rather, excuse me.
Yeah, Hidden Figures, yeah.
About the aeronautics program at NASA.
Yeah.
How this program was led by African American women, Charlton.
Yeah.
And this was hidden for decades, not being known to the American public, but with the computer generation, you could no longer hide what you would not put in books.
Yeah.
Without these African American women, the Apollo program, Charlton, would have never happened for NASA.
Yeah.
Because they were the ones that were putting together the numbers, learned how to run the computers, because the men that were in NASA could not do it, and it were only white men that could work in NASA, Charlton.
Yeah.
They hid away these secrets, these jewels of American history for decades, not letting America really know what America was about. America, and we talk about equality.
Yeah.
But this was African American women, Charlton, not men, but women that were ostracized, shunned, and hidden from the expertise for decades, not acknowledged by the American public, American government. And we were as equal, if not better, than others, Charlton.
And Big C, that's very powerful. Even when people Google Dr. Leakey and Gregor Menyo, the world's foremost paleontologists, and I'm telling you, when they study science and where people come from, all life came from the continent of Africa. It's just been watered down and in the miseducation of different people in the school system, and that's a fact. Even the White House in Washington, D.C. was designed by the African American. And speaking of men of color, back in 1992, Fernando Valenzuela with the L.A. Dodgers and Dave Stewart with the Oakland A's, they pitched a no-hitter for the second time in Major League Baseball history on the same night. Two men of color, we know, it's dwindled a little bit in Major League Baseball, Big C. But talk about the great Fernando Valenzuela and also the great Dave Stewart, how they were dominant pitchers in baseball, and they threw no hitters, but a lot of times people don't name them when it comes to the best pitchers in baseball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when Fernando Valenzuela came to the Dodgers from the Mexican League, Charlton, he was founded by the scouts, and Tommy Lasorda was able to incorporate him into that lineup.
Yeah.
He was a boost for the Los Angeles Dodgers organization. When you think about the great Hispanic content down in the Southern California basin, when he pitched, that was a sellout every night.
Oh, yeah.
He became this iconic, bigger-than-life figure in Los Angeles, and even in baseball, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was an all-star caliber pitcher, lefty who had this quirky delivery. But, he was an everyman's guy, because when you looked at him, he looked like the guy walking down the street.
Yeah.
There was nothing stealth about Fernando.
No, nothing stealth.
There was always a question mark about his age when he came into Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But he was a spark plug for that Dodgers organization, Charlton, and really uplifted them. And he was part of that last, championship
Oh, yeah.
Against
the A's.
Fernando was an integral part of that organization.
Yeah.
You were speaking about the A's. Dave Stewart was on that A's team.
Oh, yeah.
The Dodgers beat during that era.
Yeah.
And under Tommy Lasorda, Dave Stewart got his big kick under Billy Martin when he was the manager of the A's. He gave him that opportunity to become a full-time starter with the A's. And when Tommy Lasorda took over, not Tommy Lasorda, but this is what CTE does.
Yeah, it's a CTE. Tony LaRusse, CTE and moonshine mixed together, Big C. We understand what's going on.
Tony LaRusse knew how to work Dave Stewart.
Yeah.
And he was a fireball pitcher, very athletic man on the mound, Johnson. Wore number 34 with the A's, but he was a fireballer. And, you have these no-hitters on the same night in Major League Baseball. That's a tremendous feat.
Yeah.
But you had two powerful organizations in California. When you think about it, you had what they called the I-5 World Series.
Oh, yeah, Interstate 5. Yep.
Yeah, the I-5 World Series between Los Angeles and Oakland.
Yeah.
So, it's a tremendous feat for baseball to have two World Series teams from the same state, right down the freeway from each other, competing for the World Series championship.
Well, the California Big C is so large, it could be 3 states or 4 states. If it was on the, who was it, Moses Malone? It'd be 4 states, Big C, if it was on the East Coast. California's so big, Big C. Also, speaking about Big C sports, and so many good things happening in the world of sports. I thought Manny Pacquiao was washed up, Big C, when he got beat, by Floyd Money Mayweather, and I guess it was a fight. Looks like more like an exhibition they had. Now he's at it again. I really like the world of boxing. I know we're all big on MMA and Floyd Money Mayweather, and can he get Conor McGregor? So can somebody find $200 million laying under a mattress to pay these guys? But you have Manny Pacquiao, 59-6-2, with 38 knockouts, a welterweight champion, fighting Jeff Horn, who's 16-0-1, with 11 knockouts. Big C, they're fighting in the land down under in Australia. We'll also follow Big C Sports in Australia. Big C, they're expecting 60,000 fans to watch a real fight, but it's getting a lot less attention than McGregor and Floyd Money Mayweather. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about the two sports of MMA and boxing, Jonathan, that's the interest part there. Pacquiao has always been a mystique.
Yeah.
In the boxing lore, he and Mayweather seem like they dodged each other for 2 decades. I think I was a teenager when they first started.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time them to get to a fight, Pacquiao and time had passed on him.
Yeah.
And so that fight didn't have the luster that everybody wanted to see in the fight, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Pacquiao also had a couple of tough losses going into that fight.
Yeah.
But when you think about, here it is, Pacquiao going down to Australia to fight. Now, he's from the Philippines.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to assume that Bob Arum is promoting this. But you got to know where the biggest dollar is, Charles.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it.
Yeah.
If you can get 60,000 people to pack an arena for a fight, Charlton, that takes you back to the heydays of boxing. That thinks you think about Muhammad Ali fighting in Yankee Stadium, fighting Ken Norton.
Yeah.
When they had 60,000 in Yankee Stadium when he fought Ken Norton.
Yeah.
But these are the type of fights that you used to have in boxing.
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore. Everything has been compressed into Las Vegas to these indoor arenas. Charles.
Yeah.
There was a time when Caesar's Palace had an outdoor arena in Vegas that held some 25,000 people.
Yeah.
Even though the heat was atrocious in Vegas, Charles. But that was the boxing lore that you could draw the people in. Now it's about the luxury suites and the high price tickets and taking care of the high rollers.
Yeah.
But to get 60,000 people for a boxing match in this day and age, Charles, where the MMA has seemed to have taken
Oh, it has, yeah.
The fan spectacle and even the WWE or WWF, whatever it is
Yeah.
that they use to wrestle in.
Yeah.
The number of people that it draws per event.
Yeah.
But to have Manny Pacquiao still have that draw appeal that he can pack an arena, that still shows you that boxing has some life left in it.
Oh, yeah, Big C, it does have a lot of life left in it, and I'm so proud of him for just being a champion and the way he carries himself and lifts a lot of people. There's a lot of poverty in the Philippines, Big C, but they galvanize behind him when they see him fight. Big C, we've talked about so many things. We talked about POTUS and his thing about what he wants to say about women instead of being complimentary about their work. Sometimes it's always about how they look or their figure. We talked about what's going on in the NBA with players that don't even have a ring being highly sought after to go get a ring with somebody else. And unfortunately, we talked about the thing with Ruthie Bothy Hollifield and the Williams and the car accident. So hopefully, our thoughts go out to the family of the victim in that situation. And we talked about an athlete being accosted and kidnapped by two women. He thought he was going to go have a good time, but they actually tortured him. So you guys, when you're out there meeting new people, just let somebody know where you are. Don't go out there doing it alone. Big C, we talked about Coming to America. You brought me back to tears laughing about how many roles Eddie Murphy played on his own, Big C. It makes me want to get to acting, Big C. You don't need an agent, just be yourself, But also Pacquiao coming up with this great fight, and again, Valenzuela and Dave Stewart. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the world of sports?
Well, Charlton, we got all this NBA talk, and I'm waiting on it to calm down. Free agency actually starts tomorrow night.
Yeah.
In the NBA with that unrestricted start.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a vast movement, Charlton, of these non-championship players moving about in the NBA, saying that they're forming the next super team.
Yeah.
But we know there's only two super teams in the NBA, and that's wherever Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just chasing.
That's funny, Big Z. I told someone today, my last name is Curry. They said, do you know Steph Curry? I said, yeah. They wanted to give me their phone number, Big C, so sometimes membership has privileges. And speaking of privileges, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Follow Big C Sports, the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C, them good old boys down south. And iHeartRadio is the number one platform in the United States of America. As we always tell you, there's never any room for domestic violence. If you know anyone going through that garbage, man or woman, just call 911. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports program, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.